What is about to happen in Westminster Hall in the next 72 hours is not a diplomatic ceremony. It is a public verdict, and the United States of America is the defendant. Stop scrolling. Stop pretending today is a normal Tuesday. The British government has just announced that Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, has been invited to address both houses of Parliament from the dispatch box at Westminster Hall. And the message that invitation sends has hit Washington like a lightning strike on a wooden roof. For 3/4 of a century, the address to a joint session of the British Parliament has been one of the most exclusive diplomatic honors on the planet. Fewer than a dozen foreign leaders have stood in that hall and spoken to the assembled lords and members of Commons in the entire post-war era. Donald Trump is not on that list. He has never been on that list. He will never be on that list. And the man who is on that list, the man who is about to walk into the oldest functioning legislature in the democratic world and deliver an address that will be carried live on every major broadcaster on earth, is the leader of the country sitting directly to the north of the United States. London is not flirting with Ottawa anymore. London is pivoting. To understand the magnitude of what just happened, you have to understand what it actually means to address both houses of the British Parliament. This is not a press conference. This is not a state dinner. This is not the kind of soft visit where a foreign leader poses with the king and waves at photographers from a balcony. The joint address at Westminster Hall is the highest ceremonial honor the British political system extends to a foreign head of government, and it is dispensed roughly once every 5 years. Charles de Gaulle did it in 1960. Nelson Mandela did it in 1996. Pope Benedict XVI did it in 2010. Barack Obama did it in 2011. The list is short, the list is selective, and the list is read by every diplomat in the world as a ranking of who Britain considers a peer of civilization rather than a passing visitor. Donald Trump asked for this honor twice during his first term. He was refused twice. He asked again at the start of his second term. He was refused for the third time. The unofficial reason whispered through the corridors of the Foreign Office for the last 5 years has always been the same. Britain does not give the lectern at Westminster Hall to a leader who treats his own institutions with contempt. Now, Britain is giving the lectern to Mark Carney. The announcement was made Monday morning at a joint press availability outside the black door of number 10 Downing Street. Prime Minister Keir Starmer stood beside the Speaker of the House of Commons, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, and formally confirmed that Carney would deliver the address on Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock London time. The format is fixed by tradition. Carney will enter Westminster Hall through the same north door that has been used since the building was completed in 1099. He will speak to all 650 members of Parliament and the entire House of Lords. The address will be carried live on the BBC, Sky News, ITV, and a pool feed distributed to every major broadcaster on the continent and the North American networks. It will be the largest single broadcast event in British political life since the coronation of the King. Starmer used a phrase in his short statement that is going to be quoted in foreign policy textbooks for the next 30 years. He said the relationship between the United Kingdom and Canada was, in his exact words, the most reliable friendship the British people have on the western side of the Atlantic. Read that sentence again. Canada is on the western side of the Atlantic. So is the United States. Starmer just put those two countries side by side on the same map in front of the same cameras and chose the smaller one. He did not say it by accident. In the next few minutes, I am going to show you exactly what this moment means and why every American watching needs to pay close attention. I am going to show you the diplomatic protocol that has just been used to publicly demote the United States from senior partner to optional partner. I am going to show you why the timing of this invitation is the single most surgical political maneuver any British government has executed against an American administration since the Suez Crisis. I am going to walk you through what Carney is expected to say at the dispatch box and why those words are about to move billions of dollars in trade flows before the speech is even finished. And I'm going to tell you exactly what this geopolitical pivot is about to cost you, the American taxpayer, the American worker, and the American consumer. Let's begin. To understand why Britain finally pulled this trigger, you have to look at how Donald Trump has treated the United Kingdom for the last 12 months. He has insulted the British Prime Minister on his own social media platform on at least 11 separate occasions, calling Starmer weak, calling Starmer a placeholder, and once calling Starmer the worst leader in modern British history. He has publicly mocked the king. He has threatened 25% tariffs on British steel and 35% tariffs on British cars. He has demanded that the United Kingdom open the National Health Service to American pharmaceutical corporations as a condition of any trade negotiation. He has demanded that Britain abandon its support for the International Criminal Court. He has demanded that Britain reduce its commitment to its own carbon targets to align with American energy policy. None of these demands has been accompanied by reciprocal offers. None of them has been delivered through normal diplomatic channels. Britain has absorbed each humiliation with the public restraint that the British political class is famous for. Behind closed doors, the calculations have been very different. The Foreign Office has been preparing this pivot for 9 months. The Cabinet Office has been preparing the legal framework for 6. The Speaker's invitation to Carney was finalized 11 days ago. By the time Trump heard about it, the document was already signed. The man Britain has chosen to elevate is the most British Canadian who has ever held the office of Prime Minister. Mark Carney was the governor of the Bank of England from 2013 to 2020. He held a British passport. He sat across the table from every senior cabinet minister of 3 different British governments. He guided the British financial system through the Brexit referendum, the Brexit vote, the Brexit transition, and the early years of the new trading relationship that followed. He knows the dispatch box. He knows the Lords. He knows the inner workings of the Treasury and the bank in a way no Canadian Prime Minister has ever known them. He has met King Charles privately at least 9 times since the King's accession to the throne. He is on a first-name basis with the Speaker of the House of Commons. He is on a first-name basis with the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the Foreign Secretary. He is the only foreign head of government on earth who is genuinely bilingual in the language of British power. While Donald Trump was busy threatening Britain with tariffs, Mark Carney was on a video call with the Speaker discussing the format of his address. While Donald Trump was demanding that Britain open the NHS, Carney was finalizing a parallel agreement that will give Canadian pharmaceutical firms preferential supply contracts with the NHS instead. While Trump was insulting Starmer publicly, Carney and Starmer were on a private encrypted line discussing exactly which sentences of the Westminster Address would draw the loudest applause. Now let us talk about what this address will actually do, because the symbolism is only the surface. Westminster Hall has been the stage for moments that altered global power for nearly 1,000 years. It is where King Charles I was condemned to death. It is where Sir Winston Churchill lay in state. It is where Queen Elizabeth II lay in state. It is the room the British political system uses to consecrate moments it intends the world to remember. By inviting Carney to speak in that room, Starmer is not just hosting a foreign leader. He is borrowing 1,000 years of accumulated symbolic weight and transferring it onto Carney's shoulders in front of the entire world. Every camera angle has been pre-negotiated. Every ovation has been quietly tested in advance with the parliamentary whips. The expected duration of the address is 53 minutes. The expected duration of the standing ovation at its conclusion is, according to one official close to the planning, between 4 and 6 minutes. That ovation will be longer than any ovation Donald Trump has received from any foreign legislature in his entire political career. The cameras will record it. The broadcasters will replay it. And every chancellery on earth will see the comparison without anyone having to point it out. Here is what should terrify the State Department right now. The diplomatic protocol attached to this address is unmistakable, and the protocol is the message. When Britain invites a foreign head of government to address both houses, it is publicly designating that leader as a peer of the British Crown. When Britain refuses to invite a leader, it is publicly designating that leader as something less. Donald Trump has been refused 3 times. The cumulative effect of those 3 refusals, combined with the elevation of Carney now, is that Britain has spent the last 5 years quietly building a parallel ranking of which North American leader it considers its actual partner. That ranking is no longer quiet. It is now public, it is now cinematic, and it is now permanent. American diplomats in London have spent the last week begging for any kind of reciprocal gesture, any public statement that would soften the blow. The Foreign Office has politely declined every request. The British position is that the United States made its own choices, and Britain is now making its own. 3 European foreign ministries have already adjusted their language about transatlantic relations in internal cables, replacing the phrase the United States and the United Kingdom with the phrase the Atlantic Alliance led by London and Ottawa. That phrase is going to enter common diplomatic usage within 30 days. Once it does, undoing it will take a generation. The trade implications are arriving faster than anyone in Washington can track them. Carney's address is expected to formally launch what Whitehall is internally calling the North Atlantic Compact, a bilateral framework that will lock in zero tariff treatment between Canada and the United Kingdom on 23 categories of advanced manufacturing, including aerospace components, electric vehicle batteries, pharmaceutical precursors, and rare earth refined materials. None of those categories are open to American exporters on the same terms. The treasuries in Ottawa and London have been quietly synchronizing the financial regulations that will govern the compact for the last 7 months. The City of London and the Toronto Stock Exchange will share dual listing rights for any company that meets the new joint regulatory standard, which will allow Canadian energy and mining firms to raise capital in London at preferential rates and British financial services firms to operate in Toronto without secondary licensing. American firms operating in either jurisdiction will be required to apply through a slower, separate, more expensive process. The cost differential is estimated at between 3 and 7% of operating margin, which sounds small until you realize that operating margin is the entire reason most companies are profitable. American manufacturers in Ohio, Michigan, and Pennsylvania are about to discover that their Canadian competitors can ship the same product into the same British warehouses at a lower delivered cost. The contracts will not be renegotiated quietly. They will be lost outright, and they will be lost within the next 2 quarters. The defense and intelligence consequences are the part that has the Pentagon up at 3 in the morning. The Five Eyes intelligence partnership between the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand has been the spine of Western intelligence cooperation since 1946. It is the most intimate spy arrangement on Earth. It is also, behind closed doors, in the worst shape it has been in since its creation. Sources inside 3 of the Five Eyes services have told reporters in the last 48 hours that the British and Canadian intelligence services are now operating a parallel sharing track that excludes the Central Intelligence Agency from any product touching political analysis of the current United States administration. Read that sentence twice. Britain and Canada are sharing intelligence about Washington with each other while keeping Washington out of the loop. The reason is not subtle. After repeated leaks of classified material from the Trump White House, after the president's documented habit of disclosing operational details to foreign visitors in the Oval Office, both London and Ottawa have concluded that the current American executive cannot be trusted with sensitive material. The defense procurement consequences follow the same logic. The Royal Air Force has paused its planned purchase of an additional 26 F-35 fighters. Canada has accelerated its participation in the British Tempest 6th-generation fighter program. The 2 governments are pooling research budgets. The American defense industrial base is about to lose contracts it assumed were locked in for the next decade. Now let us talk about what is happening inside the West Wing right now, because the contrast in leadership styles is the part of this story that future historians will spend the most time on. The President of the United States found out about the Westminster invitation on Monday morning at 6:47 Eastern Time when a junior staff aide handed him a printed news summary at his bedside. By 7:02, he was posting on Truth Social. By 7:14, he had posted 12 times. The Post called Starmer a globalist puppet. They called Carney a French-speaking nobody from the second-tier city of Toronto, which is incorrect on 3 separate factual counts. They threatened to recall the American ambassador from London. They threatened to impose a 50% tariff on British luxury goods within 48 hours. They claimed, falsely, that the king had personally objected to Carney's invitation, a claim Buckingham Palace formally denied within the hour. By 9:30 in the morning, the West Wing was reportedly in a state described by one departing aide as operational paralysis. The Secretary of State was on a flight to London that had been scheduled for a different meeting and was forced to land, refuel, and turn around without ever leaving the airport. The Secretary of Commerce had canceled 3 appointments. The National Security Advisor had reportedly told colleagues off the record that the president was unable to focus on any subject other than the upcoming address. Trump did not stop posting. He posted 41 times before lunch. None of the posts moved British policy by 1 millimeter. Here is where this hits you. Why should an American watching this video care that a Canadian Prime Minister is making a speech in a 1,000-year-old hall in London? You should care because the consequences are about to walk into your house through the front door. When the North Atlantic Compact takes effect, American factories that export to British buyers will lose contracts to Canadian competitors. Layoffs will follow within 2 quarters. The estimated job loss in American manufacturing over the first 18 months of the compact is between 60,000 and 90,000 positions, concentrated in the Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic states. When the City of London and Toronto begin clearing transactions in pounds and Canadian dollars instead of US dollars, global demand for the dollar declines and the price of every imported good in the United States rises. You will see this in electronics first, automobiles second, and gasoline third. The estimated impact on a typical American household is an additional $380 to $520 per year in higher prices, and that estimate is conservative. When American defense contractors lose their British and Canadian customers, the cost per unit of every American weapons system rises because fewer customers means smaller production runs, and smaller production runs are more expensive per unit. The Department of Defense will pay that higher cost out of the same federal budget that pays for everything else, which means either taxes go up, services go down, or the deficit grows. There is no fourth option. This is the invisible bill that Donald Trump's foreign policy is about to mail to your kitchen table.